Howdy folks, and welcome back to the Practical Microservices stream. Just checking the volume levels here. It looks like, yay, all this wonderful speech is coming through. Let's see, tonight is going to be the stream that we go through the book proposal. I don't know if we'll finish it. I looked at the template this morning, and it's not that long of a template, but just as a little preview, there's some stuff you have to do, like a competitive analysis. What other books exist in the market currently that talk about the same thing that you would write about? How is your idea different, and why does the market need it, right? Because it has to be a viable book. And so that'll be an interesting thing. So how will we handle that tonight? Probably look at books that have since been published. When Practical Microservices came out and I surveyed the landscape, there were none that I found that talked as heavily about event-driven microservices as what that book was about, what this stream is about. Is that what this stream is entirely about? No, but when we talk about microservices, that's the kind we're talking about. We talk about other things on this stream, like general flow of work kind of a thing. Anyway, none of the titles did evented microservices and also didn't do practical projects. There were some language specific ones that I looked at when I made the original pitch, but what really set it apart was just, here is a practical example of a fully functioning system. And so it'll be interesting to see how things come out since then. There have been some other titles that I've come across. Anyway, that's for tonight. I don't know why I'm going on about that right now. Let's get back to the device video component, shall we? So where we left it off was with the tests not passing, and normally I don't like to leave a workday with stuff in that broken of a state, but workdays are typically longer than 1 hour, which is about how long we get during each stream. So we're going to pretend, just going to imagine that we just continuing straight through from yesterday. And so we changed our unfulfilled workflows method from one that takes a block and then iterates over the unfulfilled workflows to one that returns a list of the unfulfilled workflows. And now it is our job to iterate over said list. It's okay for us to iterate over a list. Let's see here. What am I trying to do? So we have a bunch of failing tests. We want to figure out why they're failing. I have a suspicion why they're failing. Actually, I don't think this would be too hard to figure out. If we come to events and our fetched handler right here, I bet if that doesn't fix everything, it will at least fix a whole bunch. Where we had unfulfilled workflows due and passing it that block, now we just need to do unfulfilled workflows.each and pass each a block because the method has changed. So let's see, shall we? Look at that. It worked. I'm not sure why I'm so giddy about that, but here we are. So fantastic. Where does this get us? What were we trying to do? We were working in the entity and we needed this workflows array for some very valid reason, right? Because we needed to be able to... Was this part of the serialization? Let me check the notes from yesterday. So changing the controls to provide fully formed examples and adding a method. Oh, nice. So what we were doing, not why we were doing it. I remember the original goal is we're trying to take our entity class, make this request hash a hash, but what sparked that particular chain that we went down, putting that workflows method in there? That's a bummer. That's something rewatching yesterday's stream would reveal. Unfortunately, I'm not going to do that during today's stream, but I remember we wanted the controls to give fully formed examples rather than requiring the tests to provide additional information. And I believe we finished that. And just in the process, was that it? In the process of that, we added, though, yeah, that's what it was. I think that's exactly what it was. Maybe finish a thought before starting another one. Let's go to, I hope this is an example. It isn't. So let's do, let's look for workflows equals in test. Test is not a directory. Sure isn't. IRN. Like that. And where is an example? Workflows equals, no, that's not it. Right, it wouldn't be that. It would be like workflow 1, comma. No, shoot. Did I commit yesterday? I didn't. That's nice. So that gives us a little handy thing to look at. So test automated handle commands retrieve requested ignored. Is that an example? No. Trying to find an example of where we use this workflows method that we added, because that would have been what triggered adding it. Here we go. That's right. So here's the chain. Notice that to make a new control, the test had to supply information about the workflows in question. And that didn't feel right. We wanted the controls to be fully formed examples of what we were working with so that the test doesn't have to come up with those. So that those fully formed examples can change with the code backing them. So those things that change together stay together. In the process of doing that, that led to making that workflows method, which returned a list of the workflows within the entity. However, we had an unfulfilled workflows method, which took a block and iterated over the unfulfilled ones. And those two methods having similar names but being very different in what they returned seemed odd. So we did the refactor there of having unfulfilled workflows now return the list of unfulfilled workflows. And what you want to do with that, dear reader, is whatever you want to do. We're not going to worry about it in the entity anymore. So that's all that. Let's do a real quick git diff here and see if there are any egregious things like trailing white space, shutter, perish the thought. Don't see any. So, and I know there's two whatever files down there, but we'll just say they're good. No, that is lazy. Let's not be lazy. Laziness is so often extolled as a virtue in programmers, and I don't know. I don't view it as a virtue myself. Oh, look at that. See, one would have got through right there. Test automated device video workflows. Test automated device video workflows. And what line was it on? Don't remember. That one. There we go. Git diff cache, by the way. Why do we do that? That picks up ones that are staged, whereas git diff is going to show nothing's different, but git diff cached picks up the ones that are staged. I just said that twice. It made sense in the flow of the conversation there for a minute. All right, scrolling through this again. And looks good. Okay, so now let's go ahead and commit that. What did we do? Controls provide complete examples and introduce workflows method. This commit does more than one thing. It's tough. Like, I like the idea of a commit doing one thing, but it was like, I didn't know we needed the workflows method until we started doing this. So maybe that's just what it is. To do that, we had to make the following changes. So we'll just do that and push that up. Great. Now we can get on to what we were actually working on, which was what if I were right, refactoring that hash. And so I think we started putting in place these transform tests, and they were commented out. So that's why they were safe to commit. So let's uncomment the raw data one. And Ruby test automated device video transform raw data. Let's have a look at this test again. I don't remember what it had. So context device video transform raw data makes sense. Let's get an example of a composite. And that example needed to actually have some requests in it. And it currently does not. And then I was like, oh, well, how would we put some in there? Oh, the controls don't do that. Okay, so here we go. So here are some requested ones. Let's just use this requested. Do we have a partially retrieved here, or is that just in the other one? Requested and fetched. So that, in that case, they're both fetched. Let's just grab the requested example, and we will say you are the new full-blown example, like so. Great. So now we have something that actually has some requests so that our serialization code will actually do something. And so we would need to transform it. And in so doing, so this is this is coming from the copy paste job we did to get this test in place. So neither of these make a lot of sense yet. So let's open our control lib device video component, device video, not our control, our entity class here. And we have an attribute, an ID, device ID, start minute, and URI. Those are all primitive values. We know that the serialization will handle that. So is that worth? Kind of is. It is kind of worth checking that we did include them in the raw data. So we would want to test ID do end, and so we would want to make sure that our raw data ID is equal to I'm going to call it composite ID because I don't like having the rogue, just something named ID here. So we'll say that composite ID equals composite.id or fail. That is a precondition. If that's not on there, the rest is invalid. And I will get rid of that one. And I want to keep these assertions around because I imagine we're going to implement the same code. And I always get a J in there nowadays when I try to finish commenting out several lines at the same time. Why? I don't know. If I knew, maybe I would stop doing it. But I don't know, so I keep doing it. So, all right, let's run the test. This will fail because composite transform doesn't exist yet. Oh, runtime error. We don't have an ID on that? That's strange. What? Uh-oh, what did I just do? Okay, split lib device video component controls. Device video. Why don't you have an ID on you? Requested. Look at that, because we don't put an ID on there. That is a mistake. Oh, no, hang on a sec. Because we're building it off of new. That was a silly thing to build it off of. So what's our event flow for this thing again? So we get a requested is the first event. Yeah, that would need to have an ID on it because I bet if we open the projection, yeah, it puts the ID on there. So new won't have that. New is the wrong one. Yeah. We should be building it right here, I think. Well, I mean, that's what all new is doing, right? It just builds one. Okay, so let's see. We would need to add a device video.id equals id.example. And we would need a device. Oh, wait, hang on a sec. Remember what these IDs are. They're a combination of device ID and start minute. So I think the better way to do this would be device ID equals that, and then the start minute. Do I have a way to get an example of one of those? Don't. How have I been doing this in all these tests? Wow. I was in a rush to get ready for that meetup, and I have forgotten a great deal of what I was thinking since then. So in some of these tests, wouldn't I need to, like the ignored tests, they would need, let's see here. So let's find test automated handle commands, retrieve, when we should write a requested. Here we go. Let's open that one. So split test automated handle commands, retrieve, requested, ignored. Device video ID. Oh, they're coming from the message controls. So lib device video component controls commands retrieve. How do you get one? You build it. Time start minute. That's what I was looking for. That control right there. I figured there would be one. Did I really figure that, or am I just saying that after the fact now that I know better? I don't know. You tell me. Put it in the chat what you think. So in this case now, device video.id would equal. Gotta say, I don't love how the test needs to know how to construct that. And these are properties, right? This is not what an ID of a device video looks like at all. And this increment could sort of make sense. But let's drop in a self.device ID right here. And so let's just rename this actually device ID, like so. Because that's what one of those could look like. That's fine. And then we could do a self.start minute, and we could then just reference the time control there, like so. And then with that, we could then get an actual ID method that it would do that joining of device ID, and it's plus the start minute. That feels more ergonomic. So now when we're down here in this requested one, this would just become device video dot device ID. You would be device video dot start minute. And then you would be device. I spelled video wrong. Well, capitalized it wrong. Like that. There we go. So now this does kind of assume that this is made up of these two values, which they are. So I could see, were we to continue developing on the system, we might want to be able to override things like that in there. But we don't need to right now, so I'm just going to leave that. I'm not going to bother changing all of these. Like, suppose that this were an actual project and we just made this change. We had coded these over here and then later added these more ergonomic versions over here. I don't know that I would then stop immediately and go refactor all of these. What I would do is make some work items for those. Those are pretty mechanical. They wouldn't require the ensemble working together necessarily. But then if people found themselves with moments of downtime, we'll just go grab some of these chore type tasks and do them And we would have on the team knowledge of what we mean by that and have that all socialized in. So I feel like we're really dragging on with this video composite thing, which is cool. It's been a fun project, but I really would like to get back to the practical microservices work. So, yeah. If you're doing this on your own, maybe you'd love to go change all of these. I don't know. I'm not going to do it right now. So we got those. Let's stay on target right now. I'm not going to make those work items because I intend to not do more work on these two repositories once we're done here. They'll be up as examples that people might take and copy from. That's what kills me. Oh my goodness. We don't have that many messages, do we? Let's just do it. Let's just do it. But hang on a second. Are we by chance creating circular dependency for ourselves if these reference from the device video? I don't think so, because I don't think the component does any, not the component, the entity does anything with the messages. It doesn't know about them. Not that the messages know about the component, but the message controls could know about, not component, entity. The messages could know, the message controls could know about the entity controls. Although with this way of doing it, now that needs to be a device ID. And yeah, we've got this ID example, but by putting a device video ID, device video, device ID here, and ID, like we know that those are things for device videos. I am curious. Let's look to what Eventide did for some inspiration here, shall we? So if we go to the account component, lib controls account, like account has ID, increment balance, all the good things that an account should have. And but there are also controls for commands like open, and it grabs it off the entity. Okay, well, there we go. Right or not, talk myself into the same reasoning, and so that's nice to see. If I am off my rocker, I at least have good company. So device ID, there we go. Let's just do this because these are properties of device videos. So start minute, like so, and then you would be device video dot ID. And now let us come back here and make sure that doesn't run again and run our tests. Yeah, there we go. Okay, so this is going to be a little mechanical. I'm just going to close that for right now and close that and close that. That's fine. Fine. It is. Oh, wait, we're dealing with the controls. So controls, commands, there's just the one. Now we have some events. Oh, interesting. So now we've got a third way of doing this. I had made those subordinate to ID. Yeah, I don't like that as much. I think this is better because they're properties of device videos. And so let's scope them to that. So if we're going to do that, of course, the message that we're dealing with here is called fetched. So great. We should still be running. And then we could open requested. Oh, wow. We were all over the place. I say we as if anyone else on this planet had anything to do with this other than me. Sounds more inclusive, but is it really inclusive when we're spreading blame around? Not blame, that's not the right way to think about it, but we learn as we go along and do things, and that is just fine. But I'll quit including all of you and that kind of a thing. Workflow, did we not just add a control for that. So lib device video component controls device video. I swear we added a workflow somewhere. Look at that. We did. So you would come from device video dot workflow like so, and don't need start minute assigned twice. Great. And in fact, right down here in this one, DeviceVideo.workflow. What's an example of one of your workflows? Well, guess what? We have a method for that now. So let's use it. Let's reopen fetched. Did that one? Yeah. So URI in this case is not a property of the device video entity class. URI is its own thing. So that's why there's not a member on the entity class for that. So let's come here to retrieved. Wow, that is just some amazing striping there. Hey, for those just joining, we are cleaning up the controls a little bit here. We had some duplication in how we were getting our example values, and so we're just fixing that to communicate the things that we actually want to communicate. And so let's get rid of U2 and say retrieved. We also have an example device video.workflow, and we have a URI control, so let's use it like so. There we go. That wasn't so bad. Now let's run test.sh, make sure we're not broken. We're not. And then I want to come into the ID here and get rid of all of these and see if that broke anything. It did. Okay, so there were some other places using that. That's fine. Let's jump in here. Test automated commands retrieve previous message. And we were using here controls ID device video. We can instead just go like that. That should get rid of one of the errors. Indeed, only one remains. And test automated commands retrieve. Test automated commands retrieve previous. Oh, that's the one we just had open. This is the one we want now. And so just delete those to use those new methods we put in place. Great, we are running again. That's fantastic. So what actually changed here? Let's look at the get status. I don't think we actually did anything towards our stated objective for the day, so that's nice. Yeah, that's all just drying up the controls effectively. No, test automated transform raw data does have some differences, so let's look at that real quick. Test automated device video transform raw data. Yeah, okay, so here's what we're going to do. We're going to commit everything but that file. So we can add the lib folder and then git add test automated commands. Have a look at our index again real quick. And now we can go ahead and commit that and say controls are... Oh, I don't like saying dry. Such a misunderstood principle. So what did we do? Controls are dried. Gonna say it. Okay, so with that in place, now we can, I think, get on to our actual objective that we're after right now, which is getting this test to pass. So what happened was the composite didn't have an ID. Oh, and we also did that underscore so that it wouldn't even run. So test automated device. Oh my goodness, device. There we go. Actually hit the slash there. Transform raw data. And oh, right, composite wouldn't work. Okay, so we made it past that line, right? So that's what we wanted. Composite isn't a thing, but you know what is a thing? Device video is, but transform still is not. So we'll still get a name error. Now we can come to, and also, oh yeah, we're calling it composite here. That's, oh my goodness. Okay, hang on a second. Not composite ID, device video ID. The dangers of copy paste are real. So, and we want to pass in our device video instance. Now let's see that transform name error again, knowing that we're actually passing the correct items there. So to the entity class, device video, there it is. And we are going to implement the transform module. Now we should get a name error on raw data, or no method error, I guess it is called. And now we actually have a thing to call a method on, whereas before we didn't have the thing. And we would add a raw data method that receives an instance. And we're going to get, you can't index nil. Yeah. Undefined oh, right. I made a mistake there. That needs to be self dot. Like so, there we go. Now we get the indexing nil problem. Yes, you can't index nil. It's unindexable. So we need to actually return something here. Well, we could just return a hash because that's what's expected. Wait, where's this oh, right. Because here in the assertion, this is what's really nice about going one step at a time. Like there's these little typos, these copy paste artifacts. And by taking this one step at a time through the test, we don't get 10 of these to look at all at once. And yeah, so in the TDD thing, it said, or the TDD thing, in TDD, it says, write enough tests to get a failure, write enough code to make it pass. And by doing that, you're going to be dealing with one change at a time. And one change at a time when something doesn't work is a whole lot easier to figure out what the cause of that was than, hey, let's write the whole program and then try to run it and write some tests for it. So I'm just going to take a quick note real quick of that. I like just having that on-screen example of the methodical TDD flow, again, being helpful, I think is worth taking note of when it happened. So where are we? Where timestamp here? Trying to find it. 37, 38, TDD method helping. Great. That is recorded. Let us resume. Where were we again? Right, the assertion failing. Right where we want to be. So now we need to actually return something. So I don't actually have access to that device video ID here right now. So the real easy way I can think of doing this is to take instance and call to h. And now that one passes. Great. So let's have a look at the other data members that would be on this entity. I'm going to split this particular file so that we can look at it in two different locations. Next up is the device ID. Strictly speaking, I didn't do the simplest implement. Well, I guess it depends on what you mean by simple. It wasn't very much writing. I just called one method, but what it means is these tests are going to pass the first time, and I'm not a fan of that. So let's get the device ID like so. Now we should get no name error on device ID, which we did. So we come up here and we add device ID equals device video dot device ID or fail. And that will pass because the control, we already had it. So everything will pass, but let's make it fail real quick. There we go. Now we can satisfy my OCD in seeing a failing test before we see a valid one. And we could do that even better this time when we do start minute here. We can just start with it independently. We really want to make sure that the start minute we get doesn't match the one that we have in there. Of course, this will give us a name error because start minute is not defined locally here. That's exactly what we'd expect. So let's come here and we add start minute device video dot start minute. We already had the pre-existing control, and so that will pass, and now our assertion will fail though. Oh, look at that. We wrote the assertion wrong. Well, let's fix that and see what happens when we run and it passes. Great. How's it working, like trying to make this exciting? Probably stunning. You're like, why doesn't that guy have a movie contract? I don't know why I don't have a movie contract. All right, let's URI is not defined. So name error, great. Well, let's get a URI. Now, if you recall, what would you recall? I guess there is a URI on there that is an attribute of that. So all that reasoning I had a second ago about why we shouldn't put URI on DeviceVideo, incorrect. Let's do it. Let's be consistent. So if we open lib DeviceVideo component controls DeviceVideo, workflow is not a property, so maybe this control shouldn't actually be on. Yeah, that method shouldn't be on the control here. It needs examples of them, yes, but that sounded like we've had one breakfast, yes, but what about second breakfast? Anyway, what about second control? We're gonna add URI here, and it is okay to leverage the URI example, just as we don't have it yet, but we will have a workflow example like so. So let's come up here to our controls and add a workflow like so. And then we can open that file, module, device video component module, controls module, workflow, def, self.example, and into there, you can even have an increment, can't you? And I missed something there. So let's just get really absurd with this. Lib device video component controls RB. Oof. Not a fan of that. Gotta say. Workflow. Why is message? Messaging controls. Oh, right. That was for the those command helper classes that we have. So now we've got workflow loaded. So this will become available, which means we can then take the increment and just forward that right along. Like so. Great. So now wherever we have workflow, oh, beautiful, because we actually put it to that method. So nothing to refactor there. Great. But with that, that means we can actually get a URI from the device video like so. And just to see that failing test beforehand, oh, well, that will be a different kind of failing test. Runtime error. Oh, right, because the device video control doesn't, that particular control doesn't put a URI on there. Because we wouldn't have it yet. Yeah, we wouldn't have it yet in the flow, because let's open up the control file again. I'm going to close that one because we don't need it double opened anymore. Lib device video component controls device video. We are, if we go up to example, we're using the requested specialized example down here, and a requested one does not yet have the URI. It is the retrieved one that would have that. Yeah. And this is a little suspect right here as well. So one's requested, one's retrieved. Oh no, they're both requested. The one is both requested and retrieved. Yeah, I wonder if this could have been done in terms of like start from this one, grab its workflows, and then mark both of them retrieved, rather than starting from a new one and trying to figure it out. Although this URI example here, right, we don't actually care what the URI is, but we have a method for that now. And here as well, DeviceVideo.uri, and I missed the shift on there. That's embarrassing. And same thing here. DeviceVideo.uri. Great. Okay, so requested and fetched. But we haven't sent the retrieval yet. Okay. We'll just leave that one as it is for now. I mean, that is an example of what one would look like. Just because it wasn't building on the other one, that doesn't communicate the wrong thing. So, but it does mean though that instead of going, let's use the retrieved as an example there. And so now we should hit an assertion failure, but we didn't. What happened here? URI.example, no method error. Oh, right. Where is that? Is that here? Right. Our URI control would not have all capitals. Got a runtime error on 10. Because the retrieved example is not putting the IDs on there as it ought to. So we need to grab those and drop them in place here, which is where it would be nice to build off the other one, but we didn't. Fetched would also need those placed on there. Like so, and requested and fetched would also need to have those on there. Otherwise, they're not valid examples, because that's what would happen in the normal flow of things. There we go. Assertion failed. So now we can come right down here. And oops, we wrote our test wrong. Great. So, oh, hey, SB Ditto. How's it going? Hope I didn't sit there for a long time not noticing you were there. We're just finishing. We're making the device video component snapshot capable now, whereas before we were only doing the composite. And so we did a bunch of refactoring with the controls. I'm interested to know what you think about this. So like, if you can see anything on this screen here. The entity, the device video entity, has ID, device ID, start minute, and URI as attributes. And so I'm thinking that it makes sense to have on the device video control, the root namespace of that control, that we should give examples of what those attributes are. And previously, like this one, delegates to our URI control, and anywhere that needed to assign a URI to a device video, it also used that control. But now what we're saying is like, hey, there's a million different URIs that could be out there in the world. If you use the URI method on the device video control, I'm giving you one that would work for a device video. Awesome. Yeah. So the workflow one I just put in as a convenience helper. That isn't necessarily an attribute of it, but it kind of is, because they end up being the keys in the requests hash that we're working with. And then like the other thing I noticed was the IDs in both of these components are composite IDs. And so like everywhere that needed an ID for the entity was taking all the sub parts of that and stitching them together itself. And that just seemed wrong, that all these other places should need to know how those are stitched together. And it is possible that you may want to have an ID that doesn't use just the stock example start minute and example device ID. And so if that need arose, I figure that this method one day could receive the device ID and start minute that you want to use. But for right now, we don't have a need for that, so I'm not including it. And then, so through all of that refactoring, we are finally at the point where we are writing a test for the raw data transform. And we get the attributes that are handled pretty much by default by calling instance.toH. And now we're dealing with the hash that we need to serialize in there. And so we already did this almost exactly in the composite component. So rather than reinvent that, I'm going to just copy it. And so let's see here. Right, so this is the equivalent test in the composite component, the raw data method of the transform module in there. And so there were a couple of things that messed up our snapshots one fateful Wednesday, I think it was. Might have been a Thursday, don't remember. But the hash in composite, its keys were ISO 8601 strings. And so when we went to take that hash with those keys and write it to the message store, the casing in message store, right, I think it's in that gem where the casing conversion happens. It would take those keys and try to camel case them. ISO 8601 strings, they have dashes in them, they have the letter T, and so everything went weird on those keys. And so furthermore, the values of the keys are symbols and not strings because those are faster to compare than a string is. And so we wrote this deserialization method that converts the hash to a string. So we do that ourselves. We don't wait for the normal serialization stuff in Eventide to handle that, which meant that when we deserialize, we have to handle that as well. But the stock, hey, parse this JSON string, the symbols had been converted to strings at that point, and so we also needed to convert them back to symbols. So in the test here, what I'm trying to get at is, I don't love the idea of us just replicating what the code under test is doing, but I also didn't want to duplicate, parse it, loop through it, converting to symbols. So I guess if this method were wrong and it were consistently wrong in both the test and whatever, it would pass. That didn't seem like a realistic threat vector there to getting bad code. So all that said, I think I actually opened the wrong file. Let's open composite and just come down here, and we're going to grab this method right there, and that's the control. We don't need it anymore. And this was just another method I put in the transform module there. Instead of getting retrieved minutes, we would be receiving the requests hash, as it's called. I guess it's not requests at this point, or a hash, because we're deserializing it. So first of all is convert it from JSON, and then requests.transform. This is some neat syntax. If it does go to prod, what is the worst? Exactly, right? Customers being disappointed, potentially lost business, but nothing big. I mean, certainly not worth inconveniencing ourselves over. We would run it locally before submitting it, of course. I think there are countermeasures in place to catch that sort of thing, is what I'm saying. I don't know if you've seen this syntax before, but it's pretty cool. There is a transform values method on a hash that will go over all of the keys, passing in the value, and then whatever you return, it will replace the value with that. If you might cause you to do a migration, maybe. Yeah, this being in the snapshot code might have to go blow away the snapshots, which the symptom, if it were causing a crash, you wouldn't like write additional bad messages after it. So hang on a second. This is actually, like, this question is actually intriguing me right here. So in the test, let's go back to the uncommented out one where we can see more. This is calling the same method that the code under test will call. So I guess we're testing that we are calling that method. The alternative that I had in mind was we would just parse the JSON string and then, so I guess we could just call the same function. We could paste in that function's exact body here. And both of those cases are just doing what the code under test is doing. I guess the third option would be we could hand construct what the hash would look like. Yeah. Huh, it's an interesting question. This is one that's like bugged me for years. If your expected test value isn't some primitive, then like, do you hand construct the expected value, or is it okay to leverage code? Or an interactive test is an option too. Yeah, not formally as an interactive test, but in my workflow, I would start the component and run it, and like, I guess there would be an interactive test to drop a stimulus message in place, and then I would go look at the results of that to make sure it was working properly. So yeah, as we've talked about before, not everything needs to be covered by automation. It just needs to be covered somehow in the process, and I think that this is sufficiently covered in the process that we're employing. So anyway, coming back to this transform values, if you want to make a proc or a block, I'm not sure which it does, that just calls some method, like generate a block or a proc that receives a single parameter and then calls a given method on it, you can do that with this ampersand and then some symbol. And so this would be equivalent to if we had called it like, let's put V for value. I'm not sure if you've seen that before, but it's a nice little bit of syntactic sugar. Because all we want to do is call to symbol on each of those values. So yeah, neat. So that's that method, which technically we haven't pulled into existence because we're not calling it here. Let's see, deserialize. Right, we don't want composite transform. We want device video and raw data, not retrieved minutes. This would be requests or requestees. And then I'm going to just comment that out. With that should now get us a failure because requests isn't. No, it wouldn't. I think the error that we get is that the test doesn't have an assertion. Oh, no implicit conversion of nil into string. That's interesting. That would suggest that the requests hash has a value. No, never mind. Where's this going wrong here? Let's see. Let's look at the stack trace. Where did it actually fail here? So do expensive things live device video 50. So parse requests equals, oh, that's nil. The request hash on our example is nil. So when we called raw data, oh right, yeah, because we're not, that's the problem. It's not included on there. So what we would want to say, we need to store that into a variable there, and then we can say raw data requests. Here's that extra E again. Equals to JSON, right? Because it's just a hash. So we would say requests dot to JSON, I believe, and it's quite possible that method isn't on there yet. Oh, right. We are not in the instances context, so we need to say instance.requests on there. And now if we scroll up, no implicit conversion of symbol into integer. These are strange. There's a lot of them. Oh, yes. You then have to, excuse me, return raw data. There we go. Test did not perform an assertion. That's what I wanted to see. So we would then expect the deserialized retrieved minutes to equal the not composite. That's a copy paste error. So this would be device video and not retrieved minute, but requests. There we go. Cool. So we serialized the retrieved minutes correctly. Now then, we need to add the deserialization test in here. So I'm going to split here, test automated device video transform instance. And I think it was you who taught me this, SBDitto, the little underscore before a context to have that not run. That has come in handy. Transform instance raw data controls composite, not composite, that needs to be device video, and we will need to add this to our control. Lib device video component controls device video. And how did I do this over here? Because lib composite component controls composite. Oh, right, I put it in there. Right, that's... so let's copy from the where are we here? Device video component. Okay, so CP composite lib composite component controls composite transform, and we would need to actually make that directory, wouldn't we? So lib device video component, no, device video component controls device video. So we have that directory now. So when we copy this into lib device video component, and no, that's right, controls device video, like so. Now we have that code in this project, and we have like 2 minutes left, naturally, because that is the way we roll here. For that control to work, to be available, we need to add it to our loader. So we can just come right in here and say transform. And so composite control, not composite component. It would be device video component controls device video. And then we would give an example of what the raw data looks like here. So the ID would be a device video.id, a device video.device ID. And if we spell that correctly, we'll get better results. A device video start minute. There is no end minute or initiated. There is a URI though, and so we have a device video dot URI that we can put on there. Built is not a thing. Source URIs is not a thing. And then this becomes requests, and trying to think like, oh, I would like to, well, first of all, why are you complaining? Expecting equals. Why are you expecting an equals? That doesn't make any sense. If I write you, do you errors go away? What did I do? Oh, got a comma. Okay. Sorry, why am I having this momentary breakdown of what this should look like? These requests are workflows here, and this isn't going to work because it's not encased in double quotes. If we had an example of a DeviceVideo workflow, that would be really nice. And send receive is not one of the options for that. So let's open DeviceVideo component controls. No, not controls, the actual thing. What is an example of one of those symbols? It might be retrieved, let's say. Retrieve, like so. I don't remember. If I put double quotes out here, then I've got to go escape all the double quotes on the inside. I don't remember all the ways. Ruby delimit the string. Like there's some percent kind of a thing. Ruby string percent, is it S? Ruby string literals. There's lots of different ways you can do this. I don't want why would I want notifications? Ow. This website really does some things. Okay. Important to note. All created strings that can be modified. I think the lowercase one doesn't do interpolation and the uppercase one does. So it would be like that to get it to work. If I change that to lowercase, yeah, okay, that's what it is. There we go. Now, don't have to go escape all the double strings in there. And what's wrong with you? Oh, right, because we already had that closed. I want a space in there because that's a little easier to see. But no, let's not put it. All right, so that is an example of raw data that we would get from there. And which one were we working on? It was up here. Transform instance, that's the one. So we got to there. So I'm going to just do next, finish this test, and call it there because I've got to get back to the day job. SBDitto, thanks for joining as always. And to anyone else who joined, thank you. Don't forget, tonight is gonna walk through doing a book proposal. I don't know if I'll finish it because it probably takes more than 2 hours to propose a book, but just to give an introduction to the process of submitting a proposal to PragProg to write for them. And that'll be at 7 Mountain Time. And with that, I will say, have a great day. Happy coding.